Hey, how's it going everyone? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review we are looking at my newest custom, which has been a long time coming. It's been a while since I've had time to finish a new custom, partly because I've been sick and just really busy, and I'm still kind of sick, so my voice is a little off, and if you hear me sniffling, I apologize for that, but I'm going to try to get through this without either of those affecting the review too much. Anyway, this is a Batman figure, very loosely inspired by the Arkham Knight character. I was making this figure way before they even announced that, and then when that came out, my customer said, hey, why don't you use that for a little bit of inspiration, and it happened to fit in with what I was planning anyway, so I said, no problem, we can kind of use that as some inspiration. So if you see some similarities in this guy, that is not entirely coincidental. But here he is. This is a Batman figure of original design. It is for the same customer who got the import style, the anime Warzone Deathstroke that I made. And this is going to be a Batman figure to counter that character. So that's what this is. It's an anime style original design Batman. So he's got the usual array of various hands and alternate heads and excuse me, a couple accessories and stuff. We'll get into that. So he's a tiny bit shorter than your standard American figure. He's about, well, it's the top of the ears, he's about 6.5 inches tall. So that's a little bit shorter, and that's okay though. It'll fit in with the Deathstroke just fine. The base figure for this, if you don't remember, I reviewed a character called Warsman not that long ago, part of the Super Action Statue batch of figures, and that's who this is. This is one of those characters that I said I was going to make out of Warsman. As you can see, there's almost no Warsman left, really just the abs there, and then the hands largely are his, but that's really it, and I guess the hips. Everything else has been changed in some way or another. I did a lot of sculpting on this, a whole lot of sculpting, and then I used some armor parts from some Halo figures. The head actually is from a Halo figure, but like I said, I re-sculpted almost all of it. The only part that's really remaining from the Halo figure sorry, are these little things down here, and then mostly just this top piece, and then, well, the back too, but there's not really much there. So the ears and the whole face, and even part of the top, and then part of the sides, I re-sculpted completely. So that's that. I guess we should just go and get into it. So he's got loaded with articulation. That's why we chose the Warsman figure. It was kind of a nice blank body, and then just loaded with articulation. So he's got a ball peg and a hinge at the top of the neck for the head. You can't really see it, but it's there. Then the neck itself is on a ball peg. The shoulders have butterfly joints and their standard ball hinge. Sure, the armor gets in the way a little bit, but you can just swing it around and dodge it. A bicep swivel, double jointed elbow, ball hinge for the wrist, just like every other import figure. We have a diaphragm joint up here, which gives him all kinds of articulation, and we have an ab crunch and a waist twist on top of that. T-jointed ball hinge hips with a thigh swivel, double jointed knees, which will go way more than 90 degrees, so full articulation there. And then we have a ball hinge for the ankles. And I have not only I guess refitted the articulation to work with the custom paint and everything, but I've also enhanced it wherever possible. And I made sure that when sculpting all of this armor, I made sure that it would work together. So like this little cutout in the forearm armor right there, that's not just an accident. I did that on purpose so that when you fold up the arm all the way, I'm not going to do it so you can still see, it kind of fits together like a puzzle piece. So you can't tell necessarily just by looking at it, but when it is all put together, it works out nicely and doesn't really impede the articulation at all, which I think is pretty important, because what's the point of having all of that articulation if you can't use it? So that's why I did that. The Halo figure's head worked out perfectly in scale with what I wanted to do for this. I happen to have a ton of Halo armor, so I was able to pick one out that I thought would make a good base to start from, and then, like I said, I just went at it and re-sculpted it to make a helmeted Batman head, and I was really happy to do that. I've always wanted to make an original Batman, so this was just a dream come true to make this figure. And I was able to basically put anything I wanted to into it. My customer gave me pretty much free reign other than saying, I want Batman, so I had to do Batman, which was obviously fine. And then he said also, if I can, to incorporate the Arkham Knight, which I was pretty much going to do kind of like a tech armor look for him anyway. So that kind of worked out just fine for me. And like I said, this is pretty much a dream come true. It was not only I got to make a custom, it was of Batman, my design, and loosely inspired by a character, which looks really cool for the most part. I don't want to get into that, but so it was really anything I could have hoped for, and it was on an import body, so pretty much free reign in terms of what I wanted to do. In fact, I might have even picked out the base body. It's been a while now since we chose that, but I'm pretty sure I suggested it, so I was pretty happy with this. Anyway, let's take a look at what we have before we look at any more of the figure. So we have these two hands here, which are just kind of like standard, semi-relaxed kind of open hands like that. And then we also have these two hands here, which are much more dynamic looking, I guess. They're open hands, but the fingers are curling around a little bit more. And all I did for the hands was repaint them, because I already had that armor on top of the hand, and it was perfectly fine. It fit in with everything else I was doing, so why make extra work when I don't need to? He's got one open hand here that's really open, just kind of like a flashy, open, dynamic, grappling type of hand. Then we have the two fist hands. And lastly, we have two hands that came with the Warsman figure that I thought were kind of cool, and for an original design Batman, why not use them? That had spikes. So I just repainted all of the hands, and I repainted the spikes. They're not claws like Wolverine, they're actually like spikes. So those are for Batman. Maybe they are for fighting a Mazo or something like that, I don't know. Then I also made like a little smoke grenade, a little smoke bomb for Batman to hold. Then I made two batarangs, which I tried to give them like a kind of like a polished aluminum, polished steel type of look. Two different designs for these. One in a more traditional, not completely, but more traditional bat logo shape, and this one more of a, I don't know, like a glaive, something like that. I don't know. I just kind of went at the material with a Dremel tool until I came up with something I liked. So these are the two I chose. And then lastly, he has an alternate head, which is a little bit more of a traditional looking Batman head. This is all sculpted except for the mouth. Everything is a new sculpt except for that mouth area. This was originally a Bucky Cap head, because he has a little bit of a smaller head. It fit on this slightly smaller scale figure nicely, so I just sculpted it on top of that. And I wanted to give him really kind of a shorter ear, so it would be more tactical looking and not too pointy. I wanted this one to look a little more rounded and kind of stubby, and I like the way it turned out. But I do like the armor head was the original head. I mean, this is what we planned on making the figure on, not this particular one, but a helmeted head. And then I just wanted to make this one as a little bonus for the customer, so I made that. Let's go ahead and pop it on real quick. Let's take one last look at this. I made the eyes glossy, and I don't know if you can tell on camera, but they also have I wanted it to look like they were transparent, and you can see kind of like a little scanner type thing going on, like you could look through that and see things kind of like the way Iron Man does when he looks through his helmet. So there's a little bit of a like double red line going down each eye area, and it may not show up on camera due to the gloss or whatnot, but it is in there, so that'll be a cool little feature for my customer. We'll see if, I don't know if you guys can see that, we'll see when it comes out. So the heads do pop off. Of course, they don't pop off too easily, because that would be no good. I was able to use the Warsman neck joint, so that's okay. And now we have a more traditional looking Batman. And like I said, I made sure that this fit in with the design, but the armored head was definitely the original idea. So either way though, the customer has what he wants, and they both have full articulation, no problem at all. This one just has the wide eyes and bare face. But it still looks slightly armored, even though it's a little bit more of a classic look. And all of the dark parts of the armor, including the cowl, are kind of like a metallic, not kind of, they are a metallic gunmetal, but it's pretty flat. It's almost satiny, but it's mostly flat. And then all of the, so like the cowl, the chest, and then all of the armor on the hands and gloves and elbows are that gunmetal, including the spikes on the arms. And then all the armor from the knees down are also that gunmetal color. And then all of the armor for the light parts, like on the thighs, on the chest, and on the shoulders and biceps, and on the back, that's all of a silver, kind of a flat silver. I mixed both of those colors specifically for this figure to give it the right look. And then lastly, I decided to keep it in a little bit more of a traditional look for Batman. I gave him not a golden belt, but a close to gold kind of pouches going along his belt, and then I used that also for some accent detail throughout the rest of the figure, with some buckles on the arms and legs and throughout the belt and back and everything like that. So there is a little bit of gold throughout just to tie it into the character, but I wanted to make sure, just a nod to the original Batman design with the golden belt, gray and black design, gray or black gloves, crotch and boot, and then the gray major part of the bodysuit. So it does have more of a traditional look for Batman, even though it's a completely non-traditional look for Batman, if that makes any sense. And I sculpted around the port in his back because the original figure came with a stand for some dynamic poses, so I made sure that that still worked perfectly in there, and of course it does, because why not be able to get Batman in some really dynamic poses. So that's about it. I don't know, I would like to talk about this guy more. Well, let's go ahead and put the spiky hands on him. I don't know why I want to, but I want to. This will be the maiden voyage for these hands. I haven't put these on the figure yet. Let's see if I can do it without breaking it. The one thing about this guy is he has really stiff, interchangeable hands, so I'm a little worried about that. I might have to loosen those up before I ship it out, but it's both a good thing and a bad thing. So I don't know if I'm going to do that at all or not, but we do have the spike hands. So I don't know, I think that's kind of cool. Like, he could use that to fight a robotic enemy, or maybe to counter Deathstroke's sword or something like that. So I don't know, I think it's kind of cool. And why not? Because it's an original design. So that's about it, guys. I don't know what else to do. Oh, I can tell you this: I will post some pictures of this figure, some of the official pictures of this guy at the end of the video. So stay tuned for that, and stay tuned for more custom figures, figure reviews, and other good stuff. And in the meantime, keep collecting.